Yeah.
All right, we're about a minute in here. Should we get started and kick this off?
That sounds good. Hey everyone, Happy New Year. Hope you all are doing well. My name is Shantanu Kedar. I lead product marketing here at Tabnine. And with me is Chris. Chris, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello. My name is Chris Good. I am a senior PMM, product marketing manager here at Tabnine as well. Excited to be here today to talk about this new feature.
Yeah, so we have an interesting topic for today's session. It's provenance and attribution. So this is a new capability from Tab9, and it enables you to minimize the risk of IP liability when using third-party models like Claude 3.5 Sonnet or GPT-4o. All right. So before we get into today's topic, I wanted to spend a few minutes to provide an overview of what Tab9 is, especially for folks who might not be very familiar with the company. So Tab9 is the AI code assistant that is tailored to you and your team. It enables you to accelerate software development lifecycle while keeping your code private, secure, and compliant. Tab9 is the originator of the AI code assistant category. So we are the pioneers in this space, and we first introduced our AI code completion tool for Java back in 2018. Today, you can use multiple models with Tab9. You can use Tab9 Protected 2, which is a proprietary model. And you can also use models from third-party providers like Claude 3.5 Sonnet or GPT-4o. So we call this our switchable models capability. I have a slide coming up later in this presentation, and I'll explain like what this capability and why it's really important. So hold on a minute or two for that one. Tab9, it's a Series B startup. We are a rapidly growing Series B startup and backed by top tier investors, including Atlassian, Khosla Ventures, Qualcomm, as well as Telstra. We support over 600 programming languages and frameworks. So all the popular programming languages and frameworks are supported. We support all the major IDEs, so fully integrated with VS Code, JetBrains family of IDEs, Visual Studio, as well as Eclipse. One second. Today we are used by, or we have like over 1 million users who use our software across thousands of companies, making us a clear leader in this space. Another thing that I want to highlight over here is that you have the flexibility when it comes to deploying Tab9. You can use Tab9 as a secure SaaS offering. So this includes like a single tenant SaaS as well as a multi-tenant SaaS, or you can do a private deployment of Tab9. You can deploy Tab9 on-prem in a VPC. You can also do a fully air-gapped deployment to make sure no data leaves your organization. So depending on what your policy is for data privacy, we have a solution to meet your needs. Tab9 is recognized by leading analyst firms, including Gartner, Everest Group, as well as Omdia. Gartner recently published their critical capabilities report for AI code assistants. And in this report, they go deeper into the capabilities of the various products. So in the critical capabilities report, Gartner evaluated 12 vendors across 5 different use cases. And we are proud to share that Tab9 is ranked first for the code generation, the code debugging, and code explanation use cases. And we are ranked second for code modernization and artifact building and testing use case. In addition to Gartner, Tab9 has also been recognized by Everest Group. Everest Group is a leading research firm, and they recently published their Innovation Watch assessment for generative AI applications in software development. So in this assessment, they evaluated 14 products, and we are proud to announce that Tab9 is featured as luminary in this space. So luminary, this is their highest category for this assessment. And then last but not the least, Tabnine is recognized by Omdia in their market radar for AI-assisted software development. Okay, coming back to today's topic. So here's what we'll be covering in today's session. We'll talk about the risks associated with IP infringement or IP liability when using third-party models like Claude 3.5 Sonnet, GPT-4o, Command R+, from Cohere, and so on. And then we'll discuss provenance and attribution, the new capability from Tabnine that enables you to minimize these risks with IP liability, and also see this capability in action. So new and powerful models are being introduced in the market at a rapid pace. So for example, if you look at 2024, we saw the introduction of GPT-4o from OpenAI. Anthropic released Claude 3.5 Sonnet, which is now considered the most powerful model for software development. Cohere released Command R+ in April. And then there are the Llama models from Meta. Again, this is just a snapshot. It's not an exhaustive list. There are many other models that were released last year. And what we believe is that this trend will continue in 2025 as well. We'll see even bigger and even more powerful models being released in the market. So Tabnine offers the switchable models capability. So we give you complete model flexibility to support any use case. In Tabnine, you can select the model that underpins our AI chat. So you can select from a variety of models. You can select Tabnine Protected 2. This is a proprietary model from Tabnine that we purpose-built for software development use cases. We have trained this model exclusively on code that is permissively licensed. So this means that any recommendations from this model, they're not going to match any proprietary code, or they're not going to match any non-permissive code. So that's one option that is available to you. In addition to Tabnine Protected, we also offer third-party models from providers such as Anthropic, Cohere, Mistral, OpenAI. So you have GPT-4o, Claude 3.5 Sonnet, Command R+, CodeStral from Mistral, as well as some of the meta models, or like the Llama models. And then enterprise customers, they have an ability to connect Tabnine to their private LLM endpoints, or they can also connect Tabnine to any locally deployed models. The advantage with this switchable models approach is that, hey, like everything, first is you are not logged into any of the models. And this enables you to future-proof your AI strategy. So we'll support new models as and when they become available. And that way you can use them with Tabnine. The other big advantage over here is that it enables you to select the right model based on your specific use case or your specific business requirement. So for example, if you're working on projects where data privacy and license compliance are really important, and you have strict requirements around these things, you can use the Tabnine Protected 2 model. And if you work on projects where you do not have such strict requirements, you can select any of the third-party models. So based on what your requirements are, what your company's policy is, we have a model to support your use cases. So there are many aspects that make a model really big and powerful. Some of them are listed over here. One is the training data. Second one, obviously, is the more training data. So for example, if you look at GPT-4o, the training data set for this model is significantly larger and more diverse as compared to the previous iterations of this model, like the GPT 3.5 or GPT-4 Turbo. And this is critical because having this broad array of training data, it enables the model to produce more accurate responses for a wide variety of use cases across various domains. In addition to training data, you also have the model components. This includes internal parameters, neural networks, as well as the model architecture. The training data set for a model is crucial because it plays a role in shaping its output. Or I should say, if you look at some of the state-of-the-art LLMs, like Claude 3.5 Sonnet or GPT-4o, they have significantly improved the performance of Gen AI applications, including AI code assistants. But even though the exact training data set for these models is not known, if you look at the training data set for these models, the model providers don't fully disclose what the training data set is, but it's fairly well known that these models are trained on large corpus of data. This includes publicly available information, such as information that you find on websites, text on forums, as well as information available in code repositories. Information in code repositories or the code in code repositories, some of this code is permissively licensed, while the rest of the code is non-permissively licensed. So just wanted to provide a brief primer on what permissive and non-permissive code licenses are. So I'm sure many of you may have come across these license types in your work life. So code with permissive licenses. So this code is free to use. And one of the big advantages of permissive licenses is that they pose minimal restrictions on how the code can be used and distributed. Permissive licenses are ideal for projects that aim for broad adoption, and they are also a good fit for integration with proprietary software. Examples of permissive licenses are like BSD license, which is the Berkeley Software Distribution license. You have the MIT license is another example, and then Apache 2 is another common license type that you come across in the permissive universe. Non-permissive licenses, this is another name for these licenses, is copyleft licenses. And these licenses, they're free to use, but they pose severe restrictions on how the code can be used or distributed. One of the common requirements is that any derivative work must be distributed under the same or equivalent license terms, making them not a good fit for working on proprietary software. A common example of non-permissive code is the GPL license. So as I mentioned before, I mean, if you look at the training data set for the model, it's crucial because it plays an important role in shaping its output. LLMs inherently tend to replicate the patterns from their training data set. So this means that third-party models like Claude 3.5 Sonnet or GPT-4o, they can potentially regenerate code that exists in their training data set. And this includes code with copyleft licensing or non-permissive code. If you accept these code suggestions inadvertently, it introduces non-permissive code in your code base, and this can lead to IP infringement. So one thing that I do want to highlight over here is that it's not as if this happens on every single instance, right? It's not as if every single time you use a third-party model, you're going to get a suggestion that matches some non-permissive code out there. It doesn't happen on every single instance, but it does happen on rare occurrences. And since the copyright law for the use of AI-generated content is still not settled, engineering teams at enterprises, they want to strike a balance. They want to leverage the performance gains that come with these powerful LLMs, but at the same time, reduce the likelihood of non-permissive code getting into their code base. And to support these goals, Tabnine reintroduced the provenance and attribution capability. This is a brand new feature from Tabnine, and it enables you to minimize the risk of IP liability when using third-party models. With this feature, Tabnine checks the code generated within AI chat against publicly visible code on GitHub. Tabnine flags any matches it finds and references the source repo and its license type. The provenance and attribution feature, it's available for every single model that we support. And another important thing over there is that it's supported for every single use case of AI chat. So this includes generating code, fixing code, writing test cases, implementing Jira issues, and so on. So when you use the AI chat, so for example, if you invoke an AI agent or you put in your prompt in the chat and hit enter, the code that gets generated, Tabnine checks that code against publicly visible code on GitHub. And if it finds a match, Tabnine informs you in the chat interface itself that it has found a match. It references the source repo as well as informs you about the license type for that repo. So it will tell you whether it's a BSD license, an MIT license, a GPL license, and so on. The other aspect of this feature is that is the fact that, like, since Tabnine reads code like a human, we flag situations where we find an exact match. But in addition to that, we also find or we also flag implementation or functional matches. So this means that we'll flag situations where the overall function is the same, but the variable names may have changed. Tabnine also keeps a track of these matches. So we give you a log where we track these matches, making it easier for Tabnine admins to review this information. So all this information makes it easier for you to review your suggestions and decide if they meet your specific requirements and policies. With this feature, Tabnine now offers two levels of protection. the training time protection and inference time protection. So let me just explain what these levels of protection are. So training time protection, this refers to the Tabnine Protected 2 model. So as I mentioned before, Tabnine Protected 2 is a proprietary model from Tabnine. It's trained exclusively on code that is permissively licensed. So this ensures that, or what we've done is that, like, since we have trained it on permissive licensed code, we have excluded any non-permissive license code from its training data set. So this ensures that any recommendation that you get from this model can be accepted without the risk of IP liability. This model is very beneficial, especially for companies that operate in highly regulated environments, where even the use of a model that is trained on non-permissive code is a deal breaker. So this is a very valuable offering for companies that are operating in regulated environments. The inference time protection, this refers to the provenance and attribution capability. So this is where we are providing an added layer of protection. So when using third-party models, Tabnine now checks the output that is generated against publicly visible code on GitHub. We look for matches, flag those matches, and give you the information about the source repo and the license type. So having this added layer of protection makes it easier for you to leverage the performance gains that come from these new and powerful LLMs, and at the same time minimize the risk of IP liability. So this is especially beneficial when you have legal teams or security teams that want to make sure that no non-permissive code is getting into your code base. So this is like a good way to kind of like satisfy those teams. And then lastly, I want to highlight a couple of features that are coming up in the near future. So currently, with provenance and attribution, we with provenance and attribution, we currently check the output that is generated against publicly visible code on GitHub. So in the near future, you can also identify specific repos for Tabnine to check the generated code against. So for example, you can say that, hey, like in addition to checking the code on GitHub, I also want you to check the code against these repos maintained by my competitors. So that way, like any code from those repos doesn't show up in the suggestions from Tabnine. So this is one of the capabilities that is coming up. Another one is censorship capability that will allow Tabnine administrators to remove any matching code before it's even displayed to the developer. So for example, Tabnine administrators can set a field where it says that, hey, like, if you have any matches with GPL code, don't even display that to the developer. So this is another capability that's coming up in the near future. So that's the slides. Let's shift over to the demo.
Awesome. Let me pull this up here. I'll add this to the stage. Okie dokie. So, as many of you know, and what we sort of alluded to earlier in this conversation is that modern AI models like Claude and GPT-4o are incredibly powerful for code generation, but they do introduce the challenge, right? How do you know the generated code might have licensing restrictions? And these models are trained on vast amounts of internet data, including code with various licenses, from permissive MIT to restrictive GPL. So let me show you a scenario here. Let's say I'm asking the AI, I'm asking Tabnine to help me write some code. I want to reuse components from YouTube or the YouTube OSS project. Why? Want front-end quality and reliability. I want reduced development time, best practices and patterns. This is something that's been battle tested, right? So on and so forth. So look what happens when Tabnine generates the code, right? Not only are we getting a code suggestion, but you'll notice this new indicator here, provenance attribution. Tabnine automatically checks the generated code against all of the publicly visible code on GitHub and shows us three things. One, if there's any matches with existing repositories. Two, the source repository where matches were found. And three, the license type associated with that code. And what makes this particularly powerful is that it checks for both exact matches and functional similarities. It can identify cases where just variable names might be changed, and it maintains the log for administrators to track matches across the organization, right? So we can see restrictive and unrestrictive here, right? As well as unlicensed, but you have MIT and GPL2o, and you can make that call on your end as the developer based on which you want to let in, via your license restrictions or your compliance restrictions. So this, like I said, this means that your team can make very informed decisions now about code adoptions, right? So for example, if we see that a suggestion matches code with a GPL license and your organization has policies against using copyleft licensed code, you can quickly decide to reject that suggestion and ask for an alternative. And with this feature, you get the best of both worlds, right? You get the power of cutting edge AI code assistance with the confidence that you're maintaining IP compliance. So your legal team and compliance teams will particularly appreciate this level of transparency and control. And then one final piece here is that provenance and attribution is currently in private preview for enterprise customers. So if you would like to have access, just please reach out to support. You can see as you go through these responses that each one will now have a provenance attribution showing any licenses that are attached with the suggestion. That was a short and sweet, quick demo.
All right, let's open it up for questions.
I used Tabnine on December 13th for 1 year and started using it again December 24th. Just want to say the local project ecosystem is doing great. Awesome. I appreciate that. It's good feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Great to hear that.
Don't worry, if you can't think of any questions today, you can always ask any of our support team members or message Shantanu or myself on LinkedIn, and we'd be happy to answer any questions there as well.
To live internet. Not sure what exactly that means, but if you're using the SaaS offering, I mean, like, it's you need access to internet. Like if you are like on a SaaS offering, I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to, Ran.
Give it a few minutes here. Let's see.
Reading live web search. I wonder if you're referring to, can Tabnine check the output that it generates against like information available on the internet? Like if that's the question, then the answer is no. Right now, we check the code against all the publicly visible code on GitHub. Like that's the only thing that we are checking right now.
Again, if you have any other questions, if you don't want to shoot us a message, you can also find myself and Amaya every Wednesday. He is another folk here at Tabnine who's heading up our marketing operations and programs. And we do a Tabnine office hours every week, rotating, well, with exception of next week, of course, rotating between 7 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, where we do demo. I will be demoing and answering questions again on provenance and attribution. A snapshot of GPT-4.
Okay, so the snapshot, let's say, of GPT-4o is from 2022. Let me try to answer this, and feel free to like put in more comments, like if I don't fully answer this question, Iran. You know what, let me just put this on show so that way others can see the question as well. Uh, so GPT-4o, or like any of the third-party models for that matter, like the exact training data set is unknown. Like we don't know uh, what the exact training data was that was used to train the models. So what we do is that we, like when using these models, we try to compare the output with any publicly visible code on GitHub. So that's like at least one place where we know that there is like a lot of open source code out there. So that's like one of the sources that we use to compare the output against. So that's, I'm guessing, is what you're referring to, but I might be wrong.
So for a plan to update the app web's dashboard. I forgot how the dev plan dashboard looks, but the basic plan looks quite plain, don't you think? I will say that we are making some small changes to our enterprise dashboard at the very, very minimum for our code review agent. That'll be coming out in the near future. But we will be seeing some changes to the admin panel. That is correct. Yeah, Fidel, as Amaya alluded to, yeah, the basic plan is for individuals, and most of our larger or enterprise dashboard features are only relevant for these larger teams and admins, bigger organizations. But yeah, would love to know if there's any functionality that you're looking for that you're not currently getting in the basic plan. And then we'll give it a few more minutes here, but if there aren't any questions, we can wrap it up. There aren't any more questions, I should say. Alrighty. Should we close up shop? As we've said before, this is not the only option or opportunity you'll get to ask any questions. You can ping Shantanu, myself, Amaya, any of us. Maybe add a subscription history view. I'm going to see its emails history. Okay.
See, so it's on email history.
That's a good suggestion, Fidel. Yeah, we'll make sure to pass that along. But again, yeah, if this isn't the only opportunity to ask any questions, we will be doing Tabnine office hours in the following weeks. Feel free to pop in, ask questions on provenance and attribution. You can see it in a more robust demo during that time, and have a more, we can spend the time asking any questions and that you might have. We'll be able to answer them. So again, I think we appreciate everyone's time here for the folks that tuned in. And thanks again for asking any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Cheers.